A lot of this learning is due to the plasticity of the brain. Do you know, when I first started studying psychology, we didn't even believe in that. I was taught, I remember that by the time we're 3 or 4 years old, and I think it must have came out of attachment theory, that the way we react to others, the way we're going to react in life, you know, whether it's anxious, ambivalent, or cautious and all, it's in cement. We're going to be that way the rest of our life. Now, to some degree, that's true. If we leave it unchanged, it will stay that way. You'll stay in your anxiety if we don't do something about it. But here's the good news. We know today that the brain has what we call plasticity. It's mobile. We can mold it, right? We can change it. And what we learn through associations, we can relearn. I remember a hot summer day when I was young. I wanted some ice cream, and the ice cream truck wasn't anywhere. And I was out far from my house, but I had some money in my pocket. And there was a Sanders, I was in Detroit, Sanders bread bakery. But on there, it also said ice cream. Well, I look, and what they had a rich French vanilla ice cream cone. Well, that's all they had. I thought, well, I'll get it. And it was good, it was rich, and I ate it. But that afternoon, I got sick. And oh, I threw up, and I was sick, and that vanilla ice cream stuck with me, and guess what? It was years that I would not eat vanilla ice cream, French vanilla. Why? Because I made an association that it was the French vanilla that got me sick, which it really didn't. Years later, thanks to the plasticity of the brain, I was at a party, I was hungry, and they had French vanilla ice cream. Well, I didn't care. I ate it, and guess what? I didn't get sick. And so I made a new association. We can do that because of the plasticity of the brain. And it comes through relationships. So the relationships we had early that created in us certain assumptions about ourselves, that created then certain triggers which resulted in anxiety, can be changed through new relationships. And that's why, knowing God is so important, and having good fellowship with others is so important, because it can change us. We can't do this just by ourselves. And so the plasticity of the brain is key, and it's something that we know more and more about. Dr. Sarah McKay, an Oxford University neuroscientist, she talked about the plasticity of the brain, and she was quoting a lot from Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, who wrote a book called How Emotions Are Made. And they said this: emotions are made up of ingredients such as your body sensations, your life experiences, and your expectations. The people you're with, the situations you're in. And so those help make our emotions. Then she says, we are the architects of our thinking and behavior. We're also the architects of our emotions. And isn't that good news? You don't have to be a slave to the anxiety that you're living with. We can change it. And then emotions aren't reactions to the world. You're not a passive receiver of sensory input, but you're an active constructor of your emotions. And from sensory input and past experience, your brain constructs meaning. And so we can change the meaning of some of those things that we're reacting to. And we can practice new emotions ahead of time, just like a good actor does. A good actor is able to make you cry and convey that sadness. Why? Because they practice, they practice, they practice. And likewise, we can change by retraining our brain. And, worry is repeating the anxious thought over and over and over again. We're practicing it, and then it becomes a well-worn pathway, and we want to change that. Now, the good news is we can use the plasticity of the brain. What started it, we can use to change it. Annie Hopper, who we talked about earlier, writes in her book on limbic system impairment, she says this: the adaptive property of neuroplasticity can be used in a positive way. Trauma can result in a limbic system impairment, or the wrong associations, right? Faulty wiring, a false alarm. The good news is that we can learn how to become aware of that unconscious reaction. I call that emotional recognition, and learn to consciously interrupt the negative limbic reaction. I call that emotional regulation. We want to regulate. And eventually retrain the brain back to normal functioning, and I call that emotional relearning. We'll learn more about that in the rest of this course. Now, Dr. Makowitz talks in his book on chronic pain, because pain is a signal from the brain, and it's been oversensitized as well. There's a strong correlation here. He says this: neuroplastic transformation is the treatment that uses the basic properties of neuroplasticity to change brain pathways back to normal function. To accomplish this, he says, now listen, to accomplish this, we use thoughts, images, sensations, memories, soothing emotions, movement, beliefs to harness the power of our brain. Let me repeat that again, because this is what we're going to be doing in the remainder of this course, is that we're going to be teaching how to use this. We want to use our thoughts, images, we want to use sensations and memories, soothing emotions, movement, and beliefs to change the way we believe. There's hope today. We can change our anxious state as we use the plasticity of the brain to change us.